All right, what's up, guys? I am back. This is our second Facebook Live. So anybody coming on, please feel free to say hi, ask any questions. Really, last week we sat down, myself and Emma, our social media person here at the Mind Side, and we talked through some questions that we get from athletes and then a couple from parents. But it really started to get, a little bit longer, so we decided to break up the parent piece and add a few questions for this week that we really felt like, parents are asking when whether they're bringing in their player individually to sit one-on-one, or whether I'm going out and teaching a workshop. That the types of questions that parents would ask, we just wanted to sit down and kind of answer a few of them. And I'll be honest with you, it's really important to me to focus in and hone in on parents and their needs as well, and their perceptions of their athletes and their players, because to me they're the ones who are, you're taking them home every day, right? You're the ones who are bringing them to practice. You invest so much in everyday life for them, and then specifically in sports too. So on the one hand, you kind of set the foundation for how they're going to respond to anything that they face in life. But even more than that, you also get the opportunity to reinforce really the things that I teach every day, that the coaches teach every day, and that then they're learning from others. So to me, parents are playing an extremely crucial role in, quite frankly, anything that we do, from a mentality standpoint when it comes to sports. So we've got a few questions that we're just going to go through. Emma's here with me again today, so she'll throw them out there. We've gotten these from parents in office, off-site, that kind of thing. So go ahead and hit me with the first one.
The first one that you get a lot is, how do I instill confidence in my child when they are playing or going to practice, just kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, so how do I help my child be confident, right? Confident in themselves, confident in how they perform, confident when they're struggling, right? It's a challenge, because for parents care about their player, and you absolutely should. And when you care that much, it's really, really hard and frustrating to watch them struggle, right? So on the one hand, it's that emotion of, I can't, no, he can't be crying, he can't be upset, he can't be, being put on the bench, and now what's going to happen because of that? And so that oftentimes causes us to overdo, right? It causes us to be a little over involved. I do think that parents play a huge role when it comes to helping their child be confident by, we've seen time and time again, positive reinforcement, right? Reinforce the things that they're doing well. And even if they're not doing well, are they putting forth effort to improve in them? So if you can reinforce those, that is huge for building up their confidence. At the same time, they also need to know that when things don't go well, that they have the opportunity to be able to work through them, right? So how you respond when they're struggling, if you're pacing back and forth and you're acting worried, how do you think they're going to respond?
Yeah.
They're going to start panicking, right? Or it's funny, I had a player that I was working with, and she said that her mom would cross her arms every time that she thought when she was playing poorly. And when she would cross her arms, she thought automatically, I'm not doing well, mom thinks I'm not doing well, now I've got to push it even harder, right? And so the challenge is that sometimes as a parent, the actions that you put out, your body language, your response, they're feeding off of it. It doesn't matter what age it is, because every individual athlete cares, what their parents think, right? So while on the one hand, as a parent, you can reinforce those things that are really going well, that their strengths, the things that they're, putting forth effort in. At the same time, you can also teach them that when they struggle, the way to respond is, yes, maybe that little bit of a panic moment of frustration, but then when they struggle, the way to truly respond and work through it is to settle down, to stay calm, and get back to what works for you. And quite frankly, bottom line is, they need to struggle.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to sit back, watch. It's going to hurt a little bit, but if they struggle and they work through it, they're better prepared for what's going to happen down the road, right? So
very well put. for the audience of one,
Yeah.
or however many are on the Facebook Live.
Yeah.
The second question is, and this kind of goes into kind of what you were talking about with the crossing the arms thing.
Mhm.
How should we as parents respond to when our child feels like they played bad after a game or a practice?
Yeah. So this is a hard one,
Mhm.
right? So they're the people who say flat out, don't talk to them about the game at all. Don't talk to them about their performance. They're the people who say wait a certain amount of time to talk to them about it. They're the people who, jump right in and say, you did X, Y, and Z wrong, right? After, whether it's a bad play, bad game, poor performance, it really is important that they have the time to be able to evaluate it themselves. We live in a world where feedback is instant. Okay, we've got social media. You want to look up something, find it, you get it within 30 seconds, right? Unless your Wi-Fi is down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason you wouldn't get it. But we get this instant feedback from people, from social media, from coaches, right, and even from parents too. And so what that causes is that then when someone, I'll be honest, for some of the younger players, they could care less. They've forgotten about it by the time they get in the car, right?
Yeah.
But for some of the older players, that they know what they did wrong and they need to have time to process it. Because if they don't have the time to process it and evaluate it themselves, they're just automatically going to go with what mom thinks, what dad thinks, what coach thinks, right? And so in order to really teach them to take ownership of their own actions and figure out how to work through those, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter what the situation is. It's really, really key for them to have that break, that time to be able to evaluate it themselves. And then, if they bring it up, talk to them about it, right? As long as we're focused on what actually happened realistically, and then how can we improve that for the next opportunity we get, that's the biggest lesson. Because otherwise we're afraid of making mistakes. Otherwise we avoid making mistakes because we don't have a process for being able to work through them. And so as a parent, it's really, really key that you give them that opportunity to be able to evaluate it themselves. And then also you get to influence a little bit of the structure of how they actually evaluate it by focusing on how do we recover from that? How do we improve from that situation? What can we do to move on, to move forward, to build, to improve? That's really, those two things are really, really helpful. And just honestly teaching your player how to work through things.
Yeah. One of the third questions is, and this one's always a tricky one, it is, when is it the correct time to interfere with a coach as a parent to try and help your child?
So when is it okay to, as a parent, interfere or just really honestly communicate with the coach about something that maybe you're unhappy with or you want more for your child? Look, bottom line, we all want more for the kids, 100%. It is very unlikely that you will ever be fully satisfied because that's your baby and you want to make sure that they get every opportunity that you believe that they deserve, right? At a younger age, specifically when we're talking middle school, we're talking even younger than middle school, and then a little bit into high school, if you're proactive about it and you build a relationship, a little bit of a relationship with the coach, try to understand the coach, try to understand their philosophy, understand their rules. Are you allowed to talk to them after a game?
Yeah.
Should you delay that? If you build that relationship up front, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier when, say, your child you feel like they need extra training. They might be an added resource for that, right? So being proactive and building that relationship with the coach, even if it's just a minor one, just trying to understand the coach, because quite frankly, that coach is a person too. That coach may even be a parent as well. So they might understand exactly what you're going through. So being proactive on the one hand, but then quite frankly, especially the older that they get, it goes back to that word that I mentioned a second ago, ownership. Okay, if your player is going to be late to practice, have them text the coach. right? If your player has a challenge with something, have them go speak to the coach, and work through that conflict resolution on their own. Because at the end of the day, while there are extenuating circumstances where it is important for a parent to, at least have a conversation with a coach to be on the same page, it's really, really important that especially at a younger age, at the youth level, athletes learn that they're responsible for that. Because eventually, when we get to college, 100% responsible for it, right? Eventually, then when we come out of college and they're in a job, I mean, as a parent, I'm not going to ask my kid. I'm not going to go call up my kid's boss when they do something that my child doesn't like, right? So teaching that to them early, and having a situation in which they know how to have those tough conversations. We're not very good at having tough conversations, not at all. We're not very good at conflict resolution. So when is it appropriate? Yes, there are extenuating circumstances, 100%. I don't think really, speaking about playing time, it, ultimately the way, my dad always said was, if you're not, getting the playing time you think you deserve, maybe you should be doing more to get it, right? And that does, regardless of the situation, the relationship with the coach, if as a parent, we put it back to, okay, what can I do? What's under my control as an athlete? How can I improve? How can I put myself in a better position to be able to get what I need to out of this team? Now I have ownership on it. Now it's my responsibility, because at the end of the day, that's the only place the responsibility falls.
Number 4 is, when is it a good time to seek supplemental help outside of the organized team atmosphere? So say it's a shooting coach or a fitness coach or a weight training coach, all that.
Yeah. So when is it appropriate to, seek out training from outside of the just organized team? Um, Biased opinion here, because that's why I have a job, right? I mean, let's be honest. But at the same time, I do think there are appropriate ages, right? And also appropriate situations that they're going through, right? So at a younger age, we love it when they play multiple sports. We love it when they're, involved in team activities. We love it when that's what their focus is, right? So it's more about, am I having fun? It's more about, am I playing this the right way? Am I learning, the techniques? Am I learning just the overall goal of the game? But the older that they get, what I've seen, especially looking at more the middle school, high school level, sometimes the just playing with a team is not enough. And really in today's society, it's become less and less enough. Just because of the talent level of athletes that are rising, especially if you're wanting to be, one of the small percentage that play collegiately. However, working with, maybe it's strength and conditioning, right? Maybe it's speed, maybe it's a shooting coach, right? Or a skills coach. Working with those individuals, the number one takeaway is make sure that they're all on the same page, that we're all working toward the same goal, whether that's the athlete who's communicating between each one of them, whether that's them communicating with each other. But it's really, really important to be on the same page. And I've even seen, specific example. I was working with a basketball player. This has been roughly a year or so ago. Came in, parents said, I don't have, my player is not confident. 100% can do things in practice, but then when we get out on the court, he just absolutely just falls flat, right? And so my first question when anyone comes in and talks about confidence, I want to know what they're doing physically. I want to know what they're doing training wise, whether that is, a specific age, right? Whether that's at like strength wise, right? Whether that's fitness wise, or whether that's purely, let me focus on the skills, let me get in the number of reps, let me do the cone work, whatever it is. I want to know that first and foremost, because a lot of our confidence comes from what we're actually capable of doing physically, our level of preparation, right? So if I'm not putting in the right number of reps, how can I be confident? So one of the things we talked about was having him work one-on-one with a guy who had played collegiate ball, and being able to just teach him position wise. This is from a mentality standpoint, yes, but then also from a decision standpoint, like these are the things that you should be working on. This is how we should be responding in a situation in order to get this rebound, right movements, right? And so what we did was he worked with him one-on-one, and then he was also applying the stuff that he was learning from playing. And that one-on-one work, because it was consistent, it was back to back, it was getting in the reps, it built his confidence. I mean, because of him being able to have that one-on-one time where we're focused on, this is specifically what I need to improve on, and this is how I do it. Then when it came to playing pickup, he was able to practice it. He was able to practice it under a little bit of pressure, whatever kind of pressure you feel pickup is, right?
Yeah.
And then when he was in a game, he was able to apply it. So when it comes to just working, outside of just regular team practice, games under pressure, it's becoming more and more common for athletes to work at least one-on-one with either a physical coach, with mental skills coach, right? Because each facet of the game, you have to build that, right?
Yeah.
And they're experts in different areas. And so is it appropriate at the youngest of age? Sometimes, not always, but the older that they get, it can help improve confidence, right? It can help give them extra reps, which automatically makes them feel more comfortable. And it can also, get them the opportunity to improve, so that then when they go play, they're able to play a little bit more freely. They're able to respond, to be, I mean, let's be honest, to take risks, because we both know when it comes to, parents talk all the time about recruiting, right?
Yeah.
They want their kid to play in college. When it comes to that, you want someone who is confident in themselves, can respond to challenges, right, and recover. And then you also want someone who's willing to take risks. And that can get built, yes, through the team oriented things, but then also through working one-on-one or in a small group setting with a trainer who is focused in on that specific thing you need to improve on.
Now, it could also, is it a case by case basis? Like, it could easily flip if that one thing, instead of giving you confidence, is also stressing you out to the point where mentally it's almost a burden rather than it's just kind of a case by case.
As far as the time spent working one-on-one,
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So when the caveat of working one-on-one, and maybe it builds confidence, working with a trainer here and a trainer there, the more that we add on, we're dealing with a population who there's access to more things, right?
Yeah.
They're especially for student athletes, you have so much going on. So I see, at the high school level, yes, at the collegiate level, people being overwhelmed by so many things that I have to do in my day. And I know they're all important, but how do I get them all done, right? And then you're right, it becomes a burden. And when it becomes a burden, when we're in that training session, no matter what it is, we're not fully invested in that, right? So if I will point this out, for parents who are interested in getting their child in to work one-on-one or in a small group setting, in any level, whether it's speed training, strength and conditioning, mental skills, skills, period. If you're looking for that, make sure, one, that they have the time, make sure, two, that they're going to be invested in it, find some type of value in it, and then three, don't go all in from the start, right? Start off small and then build up, because the last thing that you want is them to be so overwhelmed that it does become a burden. I love that you brought that up. And then at that point, now we're not actually improving anymore. It can be, taking us downhill, because that's how burnout can happen.
Yeah, I remember, and I just brought it up because, like, when I was 12 or 13, my dad used to make me go to the practice at least once for an upper age group. And obviously, you're training with a year older players.
Absolutely.
Any parent would think that that's great, except I had crippling anxiety and would literally cry before every practice. So I would dread it almost and then I stopped playing well. I wasn't starting on my team, so it even made my confidence less.
Yeah,
and
so it had a negative impact on you.
Yes.
Right, because your view, and that, what I really like that you brought up with that, is anything that we're talking about when we're speaking specifically to parents, is you have to understand that how you see a situation may not be the same as how your athlete perceives the situation. And so both of them matter, Both of them are of high value. But if we're not on the same page, then something that you see is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
This is going to be great for you. This is going to be awesome. I mean, I know what you want. You say you want it. Why aren't we doing the things to get there? Your athlete may see as this is one, exhausting. This is two, causing me anxiety. I'm frustrated. I'm not loving to play anymore because I'm doing all of this all the time. I mean, that's 100% correct. Understanding it is a case by case basis, understanding your athlete, what they need, and if they're going to see it as something that can help them, that can be an investment.
Yeah, and even just the fact of like my dad thought that it was such a good thing, like it couldn't hurt me, but the entire time I never, he used to ask me after the practice what I learned, and I was just thinking whenever we did this drill not to mess up. I didn't even remember what the drill was.
So you're probably reinforcing bad
Negative
behaviors, negative thoughts, negative habits, bad behaviors. I mean, point blank. And and the interesting thing about that is, logically, you being able to play with an older group, from the just looking at it on paper, that sounds great.
Yeah.
It is a no-brainer, right? But for you, that wasn't the right thing.
Well, and it's crazy because two of my other teammates used to come with me, and
Yeah.
they played great.
Yeah.
It helped them. When they got
Just
more
wasn't your
scouts
thing.
to see them, yeah. And
Yeah.
for me, it specifically made it so much worse on my confidence. So yeah, I was just gonna bring that up because you've been telling me all the time that it is a case by case basis. Mental skills isn't really something that's just kind of.
No, there's not one mold that fits everyone.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. And even to some situations, it's also how you present it, right? It's how you sell it to your kid too. But every individual is unique, and good news is parents understand that. They know their kids best.
Well, then that leads into the next one, which is sometimes parents just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like my dad didn't know what to do, so he thought sticking me in a practice. And sometimes they feel like they say the wrong things and they're trying to help their child.
Yes.
What do you say to people in those situations?
Yeah, I actually had I had a phone call earlier with a parent who had expressed a similar concern, where he said something that he meant to build confidence, like, hey, this person's coming to check you out, this is awesome, right? And in turn, he could see his kid like kind of tighten up. And it was then pressure. So this person's coming to see me. Now all of a sudden expectations rise. Now all of a sudden I've got to be better. I've got to perform better. And now that's an added worry and stress that I didn't have before. Look, flat out, parents, you will make mistakes. You'll say sometimes the right thing at the wrong time. Sometimes you'll say the wrong thing, right? Sometimes you'll respond in a way that later on you regret, right? But ultimately, like, number one, if you're making mistakes and then you're recovering from that too, you are modeling the behavior that you want your kid to have, right? And even more than that, it takes trial and error. It really does, to know what to say to build up your child, right? Or to know what to say to get them out of their own head when you can see that they're just miserable out there. I can't tell you how many times I've had players come into the office with their parents, or had a phone call afterward just to touch base, and they say, I just don't, it is miserable to watch because I know that they're not having fun, that they're miserable, that they're struggling, and I feel helpless. I mean, absolutely helpless. And I understand that that's heartbreaking as a parent, because you want your baby to do well. No matter what age they are, you want them to have success, right? But the challenge is going back to what we were talking about earlier, they have to struggle, right? They absolutely have to. But then also, it's a trial and error process for you as well. You have to, when a player comes in and they say, and the parent says, well, I need to know what I need to say to my kid, like when they're frustrated, right? What I say to them is, let me ask them. Let me ask them. And so then we talk, and I say, hey, when it looks like this, when you're struggling, it looks like this, you're frustrated. Have they ever said anything that helps you? That them being around, does it help you? We figure that out, and then we reinforce those behaviors, right? Because ultimately, like, I've had players who have loved when their mom pulls out, a picture of their dog, right? I've had players who have loved when their parents come nowhere around
Yeah.
because it adds pressure. I mean, it's different. Again, it's different for each individual. Parents, you will mess up. I mean, you absolutely will, and that's okay. Trial and error. Ask them, have a conversation with them. Pay attention to when certain things you say, how they respond, and their body language and how they play, right? Because it's not always what I've found is that it is a case by case basis. And it's not always the, hey, great job, you did awesome, that builds people up. I was at a soccer game once and I heard a dad yell about how, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, blah, blah, blah. Kid scored a goal within 2 minutes. I mean, because that's how they were built up, right? So it's different for each individual. Know your athlete, right? Know them in a competitive environment. Know them when they're struggling. You're going to struggle too. Be okay with it on both ends, and then work through it and figure out what does work. But that doesn't mean it's going to work every time.
And I mean, going back to the story in the beginning, the dad was trying to help his son by reaffirming, saying, we're so proud. These people are coming to see you. Like, should you, like, almost trying to instill confidence in him.
Yes, 100%.
Exact opposite.
Yeah, but to dad, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, look, this is an honor. Someone's coming to watch you that you look up to and admire. That no-brainer. You should be excited about that, But the crazy thing is, kid was not excited at all, right? Now, you're not going to know that until you mess up, right? You're not going. But I would rather the kid know that ahead of time, panic now, and then be okay when we actually go to play later. So it is a case by case basis, 100%. But ultimately, when you're interacting with them, just know them, learn them, ask them what they need from you, and if it's nothing, then just be there to support them. Just be there to love them unconditionally, because that's what parents do. Period.
That's all the questions for parents that we have so far.
Fantastic. Well, so thank you so much, guys, for everybody who hopped on. Like I said, we really just are trying to answer questions that we get all the time from athletes, from parents. And last week we did one, including both, and felt like it, expanded a little long. So we decided to break it up and bring in a couple more questions that we've really been getting recently. And I know, as a parent, there are moments where you struggle more with the fact that your player is struggling than if it were you yourself, and in that situation, I just want to reiterate, it is so good for them to struggle sometimes, no matter how hard it is to watch, no matter how much it hurts, because that's how they grow and continue to improve. And then even more than that, you play a crucial role in the development of your player. And you reinforce everything. I can tell you everything that I teach them every day, everything that as a coach, coaches teach them every day. You reinforce those behaviors. And so what you model, right? Good, bad, ugly, that a lot of times they look into that, they follow that, right? So the role you play is huge. And for those kids who you're taking to practice and really helping succeed, I'll tell you this, thank you for that. Because, speaking from, a player who was doing a lot, and had parents who supported her, like I'm more grateful to them than anything else, because they helped me, get to where I am today, whether that was in athletics or just, purely in my career now. But we really just want to answer some of those questions. So if you guys have got any other questions, please don't hesitate to send them in. Would love to get information back to you that's personal to you as well. We will be doing lives every week, ideally every Wednesday. So if you've got any suggestions for things that we can talk about, please send it in. Would love to hear from you guys and get some feedback. Thanks so much.
The ending's always the worst part.